All right, so let's go ahead and get started, everyone. So welcome to session 7. Again, social suggestions, cameras on, adhere to agenda times, be mindful of the chat tool, and take breaks when needed. This is Google Certification Level 1, the 7th and last session. So you should have completed units 12 and units 13. I know there are probably a ton of questions about how do we get clock hours. We are going to walk you through that entire process at the end. We also have a slide deck saved with all the steps and a video to walk you through, but we'll actually walk you through it live as well so you can ask any questions. And let's go ahead and get started. So we had a couple questions in our last session. The clock hours one will come at the end of the session, but we had 2 about incognito windows, which I will actually bring up a little bit later after Darcy addresses it. And then a really important thing about mail merger with Google Sheets.
Okay, so in the Canvas course, I went ahead and put a link to a video that shows you how to mail merge with Google Sheets. It's not a quick and easy process, but that video will walk you through that process, and it provides a script for you that will go ahead and give you the way to do that. So that whole video is in there. It's in the Canvas course. If you Google mail merge with Google Sheets, you'll have quite a few different videos. It's possible, and it is. It's not an extra add-on or anything. It's not an extra fee, but I just wanted to give you that resource so that you could have that link in there, and you can go ahead and practice with that with a number of different details. So that is in there, and you'll find a bunch of different YouTube videos. YouTube is probably my go-to if there's something that I can't figure out, and I'm like, okay, how do I do this? I Google it and I find it on YouTube. And that is my go-to for computer questions. It's my go-to for home repair at times, unfortunately, but it is my go-to, and you can find lots of different videos for that. So take the time to find those. While we're on the subject of YouTube videos, there are a number of YouTube videos that will walk you through some certification tips for when you take this test. There are a number there's one guy that does them, and he takes the test each year, and he produces a video each year for it. If you find that guy, and I'll put the link in here, his 2020 video is not very accurate because they changed the format in 2020 for 1 year, and then they went back to the original format. So if you look for his, I'm going to put the 2019 video in the chat because that's probably the most accurate. When I took the test, I'm like, okay, this has nothing to do with what he said. In the 2020 video, they went back to the original format that they had. Speaking of that, incognito windows. So an incognito window, one of the questions was, can that keep administrators from knowing what a student is going through and looking at? No, it doesn't. All it does is it preserves the security a little bit more. That as a system admin, it will, you can still go in and see everything that they've accessed. Ethan, I'm going to share my screen for just a sec. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So this is the Google certification tips that you will find is in the Canvas course. But to get to an incognito window, I'm going to go up here to the top and across the toolbar. And remember, those 3 dots are always going to be the more and options. Click on those 3 dots, and you have a new incognito window. So if you do that, and it just, it'll be, your activity will still be able to see, it's available to the employer or school, your internet service provider, any websites you visit. So all of those things are still visible, but it doesn't save those things. So to get out of that, I can just close it out, click the X. But again, and you're going to need that for the test. So incognitos all the way over here at the top, click on the 3 dots, new incognito window. So, all right, Ethan, I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, so the next thing we have, and I recently took the test, and so we're going to go over, and I'll go over some of the tips that I felt like were important and vital, and I'll kind of talk about some key tips. But let's go over Unit 12, facilitating group work. Darcy, I know you have this group slides deck. And before you hop on that, I do want to talk about the version history. Is Unit 12 has a great job of you actually diving in to a Google Doc, and you kind of have some preloaded stuff, and you can go back to the version history. Really do that. Like really look at that. That is something, the version history is something that is I know from personal experience can come up on the test. That's what I'll say. It can come up on the test. So just make sure it's a real easy tool, and just kind of get the understanding, because the big thing about Google Docs and the digital is the collaborative aspect. And so they want you, that's one of the things in the test that they really kind of draw out, is this collaborative aspect. And as a teacher, would you know which student did which based off, the tools that they've laid out in a Google Doc? So Darcy, do you want to take this away?
Sure, and I'll just build on that for the version history. Actually, Ethan, if you'll just click that link that you have.
Absolutely.
So this is a practice document, and this is one that's been in the works for multiple different sessions. But if you go File and Version History there.
And so when you open it brand new, this version history is going to be grayed out like the move button. Like you won't have access to it. So then once you start editing that document, that's when this comes up.
Every time you go out and into a new document, you will create a new version. So can you click up the version history? So this is what a version history looks like. So every time that I made changes, scroll down a little bit and look at October 3rd. Actually, just 2 up there. Okay, so on the side, you see that there are 2 Darcy Jamesons. One's purple and one's green. That's because I logged in on 2 different accounts. One is my personal account, one is my regular account or my work account. So it shows up every time that somebody logs in with their account. It shows up that they've made these edits. True story, kid sent his stuff out to do a collaborative document, sent it out to a group. Somebody decided to share his PowerPoint or his slides deck to other people that weren't so nice, and they made edits on the slide deck. And so we went to go present, and there were some not appropriate things in the slide deck that were, now he didn't go to present, but he pulled it up and he's like, oh no, Mrs. Jameson, what's going on? And so we went back. I saved the version, because you can save, if you click on the 3 dots, Ethan, you can make a copy of this version and name it. So I named the version that had been edited. I saw on the side who had made the edits. I restored the version that he wanted, and then I sent that other version, the version that was inappropriate, home to the parents of the child that made the changes. Version history was a great tool in that way. It's also really nice to know that, hey, if I send something out and somebody forgets to make a copy, or somebody edits my master, I can revert and go back and restore my version. They can keep theirs, I can keep mine. It doesn't mean I have to totally recreate it. So version history is, besides the undo tool, it's one of my best friends. So Now, if you just hit the arrow, you can go back to the regular version. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint. If you click on group slide decks.
You're going to have to give me access to that.
Oh, let me. And see, just everybody makes those mistakes. All right, try it. There you go.
So what's really cool is notice Darcy, like that's the cool, powerful thing about Google. Darcy didn't come in here and edit this link at all. She didn't change this at all. She just went to this original document and she went to her share settings and made that link open.
One thing that you'll really want to make sure that when we're talking about sharing settings, when you're sharing things for us today and when you upload your hours, you'll want to make sure that you share it with anyone on the internet can view. So I created a class roster master. Ethan, can you try to erase your name?
Can't even click it.
You can't click it because it's on the master slide. So I created a text box where he could write his own things, but nobody else can go in there and change his name or his workspace. So when you create it on the master slide, you can create it where kids cannot change the name on the slide. There can be things that you can put in there that they cannot just click and erase. So master slide decks where each kid has their own slide, where they each have their name on it is great. Collaborative documents where you are all on a separate, you're all in the document. I've used them for PD for multiple different times, for interactive agendas. One thing, a tip for that is if you're going to use a collaborative document, either use slides with the names on them or insert a table into a Google Doc and pre-fill with names or give people a place to write. Otherwise, they're going to end up writing on top of each other. We also have, you can go back to the slide deck, you can do collaborative documents with Google Docs, where you have multiple people working on the same document. When you're doing group papers, one of the things that, as a parent, when my kids had group projects, if we had to drive over to do this or get them together to do different pieces, this allows people to do collaborative group projects in their own home. They can do it in real time. They can be in the same document, doing the same things and seeing what everybody else is doing at the same time. What I like to do is I like to have kids have a folder that they share with each other, that then they put all their group materials in the folder. So then they can't say, well, Johnny's gone today, so I don't have access to this. Yes, you do. It's all in the group folder. It's all there. So when you can get them to start putting those things in those shared documents, in those shared folders, even a kid who is absent can have his paper edited. A kid who is gone on vacation can still have access to all of those group materials and continue the work while he's doing that. So, and really, this is the area that you really need to start, is a great opportunity to just start teaching them common digital citizenship skills. You don't share anything that is not yours. You don't edit anything that you don't have permission to edit. You don't take pictures of people's work and then post it online. Talking about those kind of digital citizenship piece, when you do collaborative work, that's a great entry point into how do we work with each other in a digital space. And you have to teach those things. They're not natural. But the big thing for us was you don't get to share somebody else's work without their permission. They are the owner of it. And anything that is written down and preserved in written form or written down on a napkin or a picture, that's automatically copyrighted. So this is a great entry to teach students about those copyright laws and those copyright protocols. So you can go ahead and go on to the next one, Ethan.
And let me just show this real quick too, just because it has to do with this, just so you're aware, when you go, and let me share this screen real quick, because and this just is in the same vein of being able to see what your students are doing, like with the version history. Just so you know, when you utilize Google Classroom, if I'm in like my sandbox physics class, understanding types of motions. Okay, so if I go and I view this assignment, if you see this right here, you see how this is actually the Google document, right? So in my instructions, I have my ABC document, and then the way I have it set, like if I go to edit, I have it set that each student will get a copy, right? And you can only set that at the very beginning, and then it saves it because it's controlling that document. It's actually creating something for that document. But when you have that set, and you'll use that feature a lot, when you actually, after you've assigned it and you go to student work, you will see students working on it live. So this thumbnail, actually, as students are typing, obviously you can't see, what they're typing, but you can see them adding stuff to it. So you can kind of sit back and just see your whole class and the work that they're doing. And then I haven't seen Amy really progress here, right? So I can click and then dive in to exactly what Amy's working on. And I can see what, she wrote or anything like that. Hey, Amy, are we struggling? Let's go on to peer response number 1 and da 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 da. So that's just a cool way that Google's kind of built in this ability for you to monitor students.
And the other piece of that, you see Ethan and Jeff are seen as missing. I can also go in there and see that, hey, it's marked as missing, but they actually did do the whole thing. And the last edit was 2 weeks ago. They just forgot to turn it in.
Yep, exactly.
And so really giving kids, you have that backup and you can go in there and see that. And that's been a saving grace for some kids. And really, we want to give kids the benefit of the doubt and really say, okay, let's go check that out. And that's just another way to look at it.
Great point. Great point. Let's look at the fun thing, internet safety and security.
So password tips. Passwords have been the bane of my existence this week. I had to get into my OSPI EDS account. And it seems like every time I get in there, I have to do a new password. However, one of the things that you really want to keep in mind is just teaching kids how to set up good passwords. They want to have something that they can remember. I know that as an adult, I have a place where I keep my passwords. And that came out of a situation that wasn't very fun, where my dad had some health issues and it was time for bills to be paid. And we went to his computer and there were no passwords saved. We couldn't get into any of the accounts. It was not fun. So by virtue of that, I'm adamant about keeping my passwords accessible to my husband and my kids. That being said, just keep those things available. Keep a password book or a note by your computer. But work with students to how do you build those good passwords. Give them some ideas. The password video here, it's about 6 minutes long, but it does have some good ideas. It does say that you should have a different password for every website. I will be quite honest, I do not follow that one because I couldn't keep that up. However, there are things in there that have some really good ideas for keeping those passwords. The big thing is I have different passwords for different things. I have different passwords for work. I have different passwords for home. I have different passwords for banking.
Yep.
So they're not the same for each one. I can group them together. And if I know that, oh, this is a a banking type application, it may be the same application, same password, or a variation of something else. If it's a work application, then it usually has the same passwords, but my passwords for home are different. Ethan, do you have any tips for that?
I was going to say exactly that. If it's involving money, it's my most complex password, or a set of 2 passwords. All of my Instagram and social media is very easy. It's the same password. And so that's just, I kind of weigh it like that. You know, and it depends on how much you integrate too. If you start signing up for new things, you'll start seeing like a suggested password, right? And Google does a great job of suggesting passwords when you sign up, but that means you always need to go through Google, right? And you're always going, and if you ever forget the password, I mean, it's a 20-digit, you know, different numbers, capital letters, and all of that. So, yeah, that would be the only thing that I am mindful of. Yeah, but as far as the internet safety and security, the big thing, the big thing that I saw, the big thing that I was questioned on Unit 13, without messing up my NDA, but was the idea of what happens if a student password gets compromised, or what happens if a student finds out that receives an email from a sender who he doesn't know. And going through those steps, that digital citizenship about just knowing, you know, just basic things about, hey, we don't open up emails from people we don't know. We don't click hyperlinks from people. We don't look at attachments from people that we don't know. We can filter things in our filter by attachments. There's like certain things that you'll kind of be able to pick up. And I think those are the most important. I mean, the password's super important, but as far as regarding the test, there aren't too many things about like develop a password or something like that, but there are definitely things about internet safety. Like a student comes to you and this is the scenario. Like, what would you do? What do you need to do? What are the steps? And so just reflecting on that and going through and, you know, letting the student know, here's the things you need to do, right? Changing your password when things like that happen is a valuable thing. Letting other, you know, reporting it to the proper person, obviously not responding, deleting the email, things like that. So I would say that was the big thing in Unit 13 that I kind of glossed over and wish I would have spent a little bit more time looking at.
One of the things with Unit 13 is it's a great teaching moment, a great teaching tool. And you may or may not be asked to do a scenario where you are creating something to teach students. You may create something to teach students about internet safety. So what would be the things that you might take away from this unit to be the most important things to teach your students? And so that's where those pieces came into play when I was taking the test. And remember, you're going to have access to these fundamental courses long after this course is over. So go back and pull those ideas out. Go back and look at them and use those when you're teaching your students. They give you a bunch of great tips. Go ahead and use them. They want them to be used.
Awesome.
And then we talk about online bullying. You know, what do we need to do to help with students, help students become resilient and think about online bullying? And I can't believe, I'm just going to get on my soapbox right now. I can't believe how bold people get when they are behind a screen. And when I say people, I'm talking adults. that they are just cruel and unusual. And I've seen that grow so, so much exponentially in the last few years. But one of the things that we need to teach our students is, what is it that we post online? How do we keep ourselves safe? How do we keep ourselves, when somebody says something that is out of line, what do we do? When we post a picture that we think looks cute, which our kids do all the time, and somebody starts trolling us and calling us ugly or fat or whatever, how do we come back from that? How do we respond? And so those are the kind of things that we really want to be able to teach our kids. And also, what is it that we need when we post? What kinds of things do we post? What kinds of things? I know when my kids were in high school and their friends were posting things or tweeting things out, and they've got college applications in the works. And I'm like, you can't put this out there. How do we teach them what is appropriate to put out there? Because it's going to come back to haunt them. And I think we've all seen that come full circle for a lot of people, where things 5-10 years back come back to haunt them, when it was a careless moment and they put something up that they probably shouldn't have. So again, another way to look through and use this as a teaching moment, go back and look at Unit 13 and what are some of those tips that if you were asked to create a slide deck that taught students, create 2 slides that teach students about online bullying, what would you tell them? That would be something that may or may not show up on something like that, but having a quick reference and, hey, you've got to teach somebody about online bullying. What are the top 3 things that you want them to know? So those would be the things that would come out. Again, they're not going to have you get online and go bully somebody, I promise.
They won't do that. Usually it won't be in a scenario issue either, the bullying portion. It will be in the multiple choice portion. But whether it's on the test or not, I think Darcy's hit the nail on the head. Address it with your students. Talk about online bullying because it is a epidemic. It is very, very real. And it can be extremely tragic for certain students. And the other thing is, as educators, it's one of those things that's like, well, someone else will address it, or we'll address it in homeroom, or some other teacher, or this has been addressed before. I'm a social studies teacher, I'm the math teacher. It will be all of our responsibilities to say, hey, here is a real thing that occurs. There are trolls, here's how to handle it. And then when someone does, touch a nerve, here's how to go about getting the help you need, getting the therapy you need, talking to someone, whatever it is, and creating that safe space in your classroom to say, hey, if someone does get bullied, come to me, right? If you do experience online bullying, because it is all too real.
And I would say that, it may come up in a scenario where they have you create something like a slide that says, what are your top 3 things that you want students to know about internet safety?
Yes.
And they're going to be looking for those tips that they've talked about in Unit 12 and 13. So those would be the things, like if you're creating anything to teach in a scenario, it'll be based on what they've already provided in the units, in the fundamental units.
You are exactly right, Darcy. That is good. And that is a perfect segue to this about that test. What Darcy just mentioned, she's actually exactly right. I misspoke about the online bullying not being, in my case, it was the password tips, but either one of these in Unit 13 can actually be built out as a scenario, as a slide deck. So, or as a document. Hey, put 4 tips to help kids deal with making a secure online presence or digital citizenship, or give 4 tips for students about proper email etiquette. right? But they're requesting you to do that in a slide. Me and Darcy were just having a conversation before we started this where I was like, I think this is machine scored, right? I don't think someone goes to it. And she kind of brought up, well, there are some questions that are like that, like you put 4 tips that you think, and they don't give you any tips to copy or anything like that. So I am interested in seeing how they do that. But let me go into this testing tips. First one is read the instructions. It is really, really important that you read the instructions before the test, that you watch the video that they have before the test. And it's super important that you read the instructions of every question. The most important thing is there's really 3 types of questions. There's a single multiple choice, right? There's multiple answers, and then there's a drag and drop where you kind of select, organize things based off of what they're connected to, right? So Google Classroom provides this, Google Slides provides this, Google Docs provides this, YouTube provides this. The multiple choice and those slide ones I felt were the easiest. The multiple answers, and this is something our students also struggle with historically in big state standardized tests, the multiple answers can get difficult. Google did a great job of telling you next to every question at the very top how many answers you should select. And that is a super valuable thing to look at. I know I'm just saying it. Remember it when you take the test, because you'll read a question and you'll be looking and you'll stay. I mean, I wasted probably 3 minutes reading 2 answers and being like, could that possibly be one of the answers? Because I could see how a person might like this. And then I looked up and I saw select 2 answers. And I was like, oh, well, I definitely know it's these 2. So I don't know why I spent time looking at the other ones. Right.
And
so yeah.
Just note that it is above, it's not directly above the question, it's up at the top. And I had to look for that. It's not in your direct line of sight when you're looking at the question.
You're right.
So look up towards the top to find there's 1 answer, there's 2 answers, select the best one, to orient yourself with that on your first question.
On the very first
you
question.
know where to look for that. Because it's, like I said, it's not in your line of sight.
Excellent. That's my number 1 tip. It will save you time. The second tip is to use the incognito window, not a guest window. So here's what will happen, and I'll just kind of share my screen full desktop real quick. So here's what will start occurring. When you get an email, so you sign up for the test, it waits a little bit because it has to actually create the test after you've paid for it. And then it sends you a documentation saying, hey, your test is ready. And it says it will happen within 24 to 48 hours. It usually happens within like 30 minutes. The test was ready and I got an email. You need to open up a notes page. And this is what I did. I just copied what was in the email, because they give you an edu exam with google.com, your email address. Remember, they give you that made up email address and a password. So I literally just copy this to a new page. The reason that's important is if for whatever reason you get kicked out of the exam, you can get back into the exam within 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes if you get kicked out to get back in. The computer you're using needs to be the same computer you're using right now that has a webcam. You have to have a webcam because your webcam is up in the corner of the screen the whole time. So I copied into the Google Notes. If you don't have Mac Notes, open up another document and save those notes into it. Again, use this right here. Use the incognito right here, new incognito button. And here's why that's so important. One of your, let me just sign out real quick. Nope. Let me go here. No. How do I? So right here, if you go and click, if you sign out of everything, you'll get to this page when you click Chrome. And if you click guest mode, the issue with guest mode is one, there's no new incognito window in guest mode. So what I had done the mistake of is I signed, because one of the things it tells you is sign out of all your Google accounts. Well, when you sign out of all your Google accounts, the only thing you can sign up is into a guest account. And the issue with the guest account is it does not have your bookmark page. And you may have a scenario that says create a bookmark folder, right? And add 3 web pages to that bookmark folder about critical thinking, about inclusionary practices, about universal design for learning, right? And so what they're really asking you to do is come here to this, go, or you can just double click this, add a folder, write whatever folder it is you need, and then start adding things, pages to the folder by just clicking the star and then collecting the right folder, right? And so you have to do that in an incognito window. So in my experience, when you log in to one of your Gmails, just one of your Google accounts, and you create a new incognito window, you'll have your bookmarks kind of transfer there for you. When you go and you open up this web page, right? You copy this web page into the bar and you sign in with this email and password. What happens is you automatically get stopped out of this Gmail that you're in. So it actually, like a red bar shows up and says it's not being able to be synced. And then you can complete everything on the incognito window. So that's just one piece of advice. The guest would have worked if I did not ever have this question, right? And because I had it, I was like, I can't open an incognito window. There's no way for me to bookmark as a guest. So what I had to do was exit out and then go pull it back up and go into it. Does that make sense?
And it'll tell you that. I just pulled up my my email, and it'll tell you to come into it in an incognito window. So if you're like, okay, I'm never going to remember this, it'll tell you that in the instructions. They also give you a sheet in here of exam FAQs. So make sure to read all the information that is there that they'll provide for you once you sign up for it. They will tell you that it's busier Wednesday through Friday afternoons.
Yep.
So do it on another time. Do it on another time. I did mine on a Sunday morning. I did it before everybody else got up. And I didn't have any access issues, but it'll tell you what to do if you do have access issues. I did run into an issue where at first it wouldn't let me copy a link for a YouTube video that they had given me a link and it wouldn't let me copy it. I did it a couple times, took a deep breath, and then it worked. So just take that deep breath and just relax and take your time. There are more certification tips in the Canvas course too, down towards the bottom at the beginning in the additional resources section, just some more tips there, and very similar to everything that Ethan is telling you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then we'll get to, I want to save enough time to show everyone how to, make sure we get clock hours for this. But one of the things, if you're confused, reread the question and see what they're asking, trying to target. So there might be a question where the scenario kind of comes up as your school is trying to address students' lack of internet at home, right? Or you're trying to come up with a plan to help paper usage, right? You don't want to use so much paper in your classroom. Why is Google a good option for this? And if you or why is Google Classroom a good option? And if you look, it has a bunch of good options for Google Classroom, right? But it might say like Google Classroom can use YouTube videos, which can be more engaging for students. Like that has nothing to do with saving paper, right? And not printing as much. So that was the big thing that I kind of realized. It's really important to make sure you reread the questions to make sure your answers are addressing that. And then the last thing is relax and take it slow. I think there's more than enough time. 3 hours is a lot of time for the test. I believe there are total, for me, I think it was 18 questions in the first half and then 10 scenarios in the second. And some of the scenarios are one task scenarios. I mean, very simple. Find this Google folder and share it with Mr. Anderson. You know, and so you just, and they give you a full drive and all of that. So just remember how to go in the drive and search keywords. Remember copy and paste, and they kind of tell you, hey, copy all of this. And if you were a little bit worried about Google spreadsheets, go do our Google spreadsheet scenario that we built in the choice board. It was very, very, very accurate. Go do that. Make sure you know how to, highlight some of the things and make graphs with it. If you go back to the unit, if you go back to the unit, I believe it was what Google Sheets was unit 9, I believe, or maybe no, it was unit 7 or 8. If you go back to that and you try those, the ones that they gave you, there's a way you could click it and it made a copy. Go do that scenario. Listen to what they're writing in there. They say like, go highlight this text and make a couple graphs and mess around. Go do that and you'll have everything you need down. All right, so then let's go to this last part about submitting clock hours. This one right here is a great resource if you have the Windows snipping tool. So I'm gonna go over first off if you're using a Mac, and then Darcy, you can go over using this snipping tool, but just so you're aware, it is all here, right? It is all, you can watch a Screencastify video, everything you would need to know is right here. So if I'm gonna do this, what I'm going to do is I'm coming here. I would go to my fundamentals training. One of the things I would do right off the bat is I'm going to either press Control or Command, depending if you're on a PC or a Mac, and then the minus button. And I'm going to shrink my screen to about 67%. And that should allow me to get everything I need. And so then I'm going to, and for a Mac, you push Command Shift 4. And that lets you get a nice screenshot. So I got one screenshot there. I'll do another screenshot here. Command Shift 4 again, another screenshot, and oops, gotta get 2 more. 10 through 12 and 13. And so remember, the big thing about this, if you notice all of mine are check marked, that's because I went back and I made sure I clicked every box. I opened up every file. I submitted, when they have a note page, I put in notes and click entered. The thing we will be checking is this unit 4 review, unit 5 review. So make sure that all of those unit reviews are checked, not with an X. If you got an X on it, you can scroll up to the top and click retake, and it'll allow you to retake it. But just make sure all of the unit reviews are completed. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the home page, right? And I'll even go view as a student. So when you're on the student page right here, you're going to scroll all the way down past session 7, past additional resources. And you are going to go to right here, feedback on personal impact. Wait, nope. We got to go to course.
Because you have to complete the the feedback piece before you can get to the uploading hours or the clock hour attestation. So that has to be done first if you're in student view.
Thank you, Darcy. And so what this is this right here, feedback on personal, this, and if you watch this, Andrew did a great job of showing how you submit a video. So you're actually going to come here and you're going to submit a video to us about your experience. You can also choose to type it as well. This one right here shows how to upload this. This was all uploaded onto one document, which is a great way as well. But when we actually go, and I'm just clicking next again to the wrap up clock hour attestation, you come here, we click this link. You're going to put your first name, your last name, your email address you use to register for the course, the school district or organization you're part of, and then add file. And you should be able to upload 10 files. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab these files and just drag them here. And so I have the 5 files, and then I can click upload, and they will be able to upload like that, and then we're all good. Once I put my first name right here, my last name, my email address, and all of that, I'll be able to click submit, and everything will be good. Any questions on that?
So if I went ahead and did screenshots of my things, but then I put it into a Google Doc. So it'd be, because I wasn't sure when you said the limited number of uploads are going to be available. So I was like, well, I'll just put them all in one document. Is that uploading a Google Doc will be fine?
Totally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Totally.
And actually, I have 2 people. I have Emily and Jovan that have already submitted theirs, and they're both on Google Docs with multiple different screen snips on one document.
Okay, thank you.
So then if you are doing it as a Google Doc, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick.
Yep.
So I'm going to go to my fundamentals and make sure that if you've got a Google Doc, you're going to go ahead and pull it open. I titled it with my name and Google Doc certification. Now I'm going to go over here to fundamentals. Down at the bottom of your screen, you have a search bar. You can look for snip. And the snipping tool will come up. And I'm going to pull this over. Ethan, are you seeing my snipping tool, or are you still seeing my fundamentals? You are muted.
We see the snipping tool.
Okay, so I'm gonna click new, and actually I'm gonna get it to where I want it. So I've got 1 and 2 up here. I'm gonna click new, and you'll see my screen goes a little bit gray. I'm gonna drag a box around what I want. And I'm just gonna go file or edit, copy, or Control C. I'm going to go over to my document. And Control V or edit paste. And there we go. I'm going to go back to my fundamentals, scroll down to my next one, go back to my snipping tool, and that's this scissors here. I'm going to click new, draw a box around what I want, copy, go to my document. And this is kind of big, so I'm going to go ahead and resize it. It can be smaller. I don't need to read all of it. Copy, paste, resize it, and it'll just go in there, and you can just copy and paste and put it in all in one document. So that is what I did. And then if I go share, if you're using a Google Doc, make sure that you change the sharing permissions. So it's anyone with the link can view, and I'm going to copy that link. I'm going to go back to my form. And it's taking its time right now, but I would just go ahead and paste that link in there. So that's what I would be doing. And of course it's gonna freeze on me, but that's what I would do for the Google certification. And so this is what, we got a couple of people that have already submitted theirs. This is what they submitted. So it's a blank it's a document, and then as we give it a little bit more time to wake up, then we see, here's the screenshots. So that's what we're looking for. And I got mine on 2 pages. I think a couple other people that have already submitted have submitted it on 1 or 2 pages. So, but that's what the instructions in the Canvas course, that is through laptop, so Windows. And then Ethan just showed you through the Mac. So Ethan, I might ask you to put instructions or an extra page in there for Mac instructions, so that people can have access to that in the Canvas course.
That sounds perfect.
Okay.
So then let's just make it open to let's make it open for right now. Why don't y'all try to submit this in case we have any questions, right? Or we have any, if you didn't complete the 13 units yet. Oh, this is a good question. I forgot how to get on the page. Kelly, if you mean this page right here, the fundamentals page, the best way to get to that page is to come back here to your courses, the homepage of the course. And in all of the pre-work sessions, when you click it, that first link that comes up, please follow this link, will take you to this page.
Or were you talking about the Canvas course, Kelly? This is the login for the Canvas course. So it could be either one.
Elizabeth, everything is due in 2 weeks, correct, Darcy? We're keeping it open for 2 more weeks?
I think we were going to close it on June 1st, so that it takes about 2 weeks to get the clock hours turned around.
That's right.
So through the weekend, we'll be keeping it open, and then we'll close it on end of business June 1st. So then people, because I know there are some people that need to have their, they're looking for the STEM hours, and we really want to make sure that they get those STEM hours in before certification renewal is up. So that will be done. Can I share my screen for just a second, Ethan?
Absolutely.
Okay, so back in the Google form, if I go to, this is where it froze on me, I'm going to go add file. And if I'm doing a Google Doc, I'm going to go to my drive, and that's where I'll put, okay, doc certification. That's what I want. Darcy Jameson, doc certification. I'd select. And so that's what's going to get uploaded. So if I do it on a Google Drive, I'm going to go make sure that I have it there. Okay. Other questions? And I have access to the back end of the Google form. So if you submit something and you're like, hey, Darcy, did it work? Just shoot me an email. Just let me know and I'll double check it. That's not a big deal. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Juliana, I got yours. It came through. For
Thank
some,
you.
yeah. Yep, it's all there. So again, if you submit it and you're like, okay, I just want to double check, please just reach out to me and I can double check that at any time. Okay.
Awesome, Kelly. And I am just going to make sure I copy that skill shot, the fundamental training. I'm also posting that just so you can make sure you get there as well. Remember, you need to be logged in with the correct Gmail. So if you completed all 13 with your personal Gmail, then you need to be logged into that Gmail when you click that link, and that will take you to the where it's all completed. If you're in a new Gmail, like your school Gmail or some other Gmail, it will say incompleted.
I think we're about done. We'll stick on for a few more minutes, but I want to thank you guys for sticking with us for the last 7 weeks.
Absolutely.
I would absolutely love to hear, once you take the test, if you take the test, I would love to hear how it goes for you, what things helped, what things we would, if we did it again, what you'd like us to spend more time on. But I would love to keep in touch and let me know how it goes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy it. Enjoy the summer break too. Well deserved.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just one real quick question. There was nothing on the modules on the Canvas itself that needed to be checked off other than the units and the video that it asks for, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Ethan, have a great weekend. Where is the spot for entering pages to enter completed work I have? Okay, so Kelly, in the Google form.
So to find that Google form, Kelly, what you're going to do first is you're going to do this on your Canvas homepage, right? When you get here, and I'll go into student view again, it's going to look like this in the last module, module 8. You've got to do this feedback on personal impact. It's going to ask you to record a video. You can also opt out of the video and type in text as well, but you'll see that there. This then is uploading hours. It walks you through that video sample to upload. And then finally, the wrap up Clower attestation or wrap up clock hour attestation. That right there looks like this. So after you've completed that video, you click next on this one, you'll get to this page where all you got to do is click this link right here. And once you're on this Google Docs, first name Kelly, last name Bell, your email address that you registered with the course with, the school district or organization you're a part of, and then you'll click add file here. And this is where you will drag that document and place it in here. Or if it's a Google document, you have it, you can just go to your drive and find it that way.
Yes, module 8 at the end.
Yes, that is an 8, yes.
All righty, Ethan, I'm gonna go ahead and leave and you have a good weekend.
Yes, you too. You're
Hopefully
taking
you-
tomorrow off, right? Enjoy your weekend.
I am taking tomorrow off and completely unplugging. So
Unplug and take a break.
yeah.
Much,
All right.
all right, I'll see you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Kelly, let me know if you need any more support with this, help with this. You can post it in the chat. Okay, perfect. If you've entered in all of those already, then all you got to do is just go to that attestation and make sure you upload that in the form and then submit that form and you should be good to go. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to give me an email. I'll put my email down in the chat box as well, and you can find it everywhere. But yeah, just let me know if you need any more support, okay?